Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's session on Business Sustainability Talks. My name is Namrata, and I'm the co-founder of ShiftEco, a platform for honest, vetted, eco-friendly products. Sustainability is a big topic for us. We have the government, we have companies really focusing on net zero ambitions. And the aim of this Business Sustainability Talks is to invite leading chief sustainability officers of different industries, of different leading companies, and create an open platform for us to share, to learn about how different companies are approaching sustainability. So without much ado, I'd like to start with today's session. We're very, very happy today to have Vijay here with us. Thank you for joining us, Vijay. Vijay is the Group Chief Sustainability Officer of Emirates NBD. And over to you to give a quick introduction, because I don't think I'll do justice to your introduction.
Thanks so much, Namrata. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here with yourselves as well. My name is Vijay Bains. I'm the Group Chief Sustainability Officer for Emirates National Bank of Dubai. I sit on our Group Executive Committee, and I'm responsible for sustainability. And that goes from sustainable finance through to our own initiatives, but also moving our clients towards net zero as well. I also cover off the regulatory element as well.
Great. That sounds like a really great start. So to start the discussion, Vijay, can you tell us a little bit about your career, how you stumbled upon sustainability, or was it a passion?
Yep.
Can you share with us your background about sustainability?
Sure. So I actually trained as an environmental scientist and a climate scientist.
Wow.
So it was about 20 years ago now, over 20 years ago. So I started work as an environmental scientist in the UK, and then went on to work as an environmental scientist in a number of different IFIs, like EBRD, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and then working in climate change as well, with policymakers as well. From there, sustainability cut across my entire career.
Right.
And it's had its ups and downs, sustainability, in terms of appetite for sustainability, in terms of, budgets as well.
Yeah.
And as we were speaking about, I used to work for consulting as well. So I used to work for KPMG in the UAE as well as in the UK, as well as Ernst & Young. And within that career as well, advised some of the largest corporations on sustainability strategies, net zero ambitions, target setting as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say every year becomes a larger year for sustainability.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's been a wonderful journey that's passed by in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. For me, there's nothing you can't see that doesn't touch sustainability. We're in a great meeting room. You look at recycling bins. We look at this building, which is going to go office refurbishment to a LEED planting building. We've got a backdrop of Dubai behind us as well, which we finance as well. So for me, it cuts across everything.
Yeah.
Now, in my career, probably three principal roles. One, environmental scientist, climate scientist,
Yeah.
designing net zero pathways, thinking about climate change, thinking about those models as well.
Yeah.
Second phase of my career, really helping clients meet net zero and what does sustainability mean in the board. And then third is working banks like EBD as well, thinking about sustainability, moving clients towards net zero, but also make sure no one's left behind.
Right.
And that just transition has become very, very important.
No, I think you've put it really well, and I'm quite amazed to see your journey from a climate scientist to now a chief sustainability officer. And I'm sure you've seen the momentum increase year on year. So what do you think the corporate sustainability landscape looks like in the UAE now? How long have you been in the UAE, Vijay?
So been working here for about, I think, 4 to 5 years.
Right.
Been with Emirates NBD for 2 years. Coming up to it's my 2-year anniversary this month as well.
Oh wow! Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So what do you think of the corporate sustainability landscape here in the UAE?
I think it's fantastic. I think we could throw a stick and hit a number of companies that have now got chief sustainability officers or sustainability strategies.
Yeah.
I think the lightning bolt we always talk about is COP. COP really galvanized minds, but even ahead of that, the UAE's been setting net zero targets, making sustainability commitments as well.
Right.
And I think on the third element as well, the regulatory framework as well.
Right.
So we've seen from the UAE a number of different regulations around hydrogen, around clean power, around net zero be made.
Yeah.
I think only a month or so, maybe 2 weeks ago, around gender diversity at board, which is a passion project for myself. And I think those of you listening at home as well, it's really, really important as well.
Right.
I think COP has been a galvanizing factor. The second year of sustainability as well.
Right.
And I think as well, we've seen Mokai, the Ministry of Climate as well, foundation a number of years ago, looking at designing that pathway towards net zero,
Right.
the impact of climate change. And we're now in a place of climate mitigation and adaptation as well.
Right. No, I think you bring up a few really interesting points. And I think the first point that I really liked is to not leave anybody behind. A just transition. We all talk about net zero goals, but how do we not leave anyone behind? I think it's a great statement and I understand it, but realistically, how is it possible not to leave someone behind?
I think it's important to have a realistic pathway to support the client. So if I give an example, if we finance, we're a company that brought Tesla into the country. I think one of the best EV rates out there for those of you listening at home as well. We're supporting the Ministry of Climate as well to say actually we need charging stations in different parts of the UAE that aren't well served. But actually, sometimes we get feedback saying, why don't you only offer EVs? Now, that doesn't really speak to our clientele, 90% of which are choosing ICE vehicles as well.
Right.
So we don't want to close off our products, but we are really pushing more and more of our sustainable finance products and saying to our customers, this is a sustainable choice.
Right.
So for us, it's launching the right products
so
that they choose to finance through us. I think that's the key.
Right.
I think the second part as well is just transition.
Yeah.
We offer the highest amount of, say, SME financing, say, in Turkey for farmers. We offer a number of different, really exciting products there as well to support SME farmers.
Right.
One of the challenges has been in transition finance is sometimes you exclude clients and you say, actually, this is really, really challenging. For us, our net zero pathway is set, but we don't want to leave any of those customers behind.
Right.
Because I think it's fair to say them right there. I think everyone knows. There's been a bit of feedback as well from the US and around the world around sustainability.
Yeah.
There's an election as well coming up in a few weeks as well. And sustainability gets some feedback in the election cycle as well. And I think we really need to be mindful to bring everyone on the journey.
Yeah.
I think on the energy transition, we've seen really exciting developments around the world in terms of what the largest single solar plant in UAE, in Dubai, where we're making fortune. If we look across the world, there will be winners and there will be areas that need development as well. Yeah. So for us, is to make sure no one's left behind that journey as well.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think let's focus a little bit on sustainable finance. And the transition to sustainable finance is tricky. So how do you balance this transition and what are the opportunities and challenges in this transition to sustainable finance?
Yeah, so we set our net zero goal for sustainable finance along with 8 other banks in the UAE at COP28.
Yes.
I think, and a significant goal as well, we're also trained all our relationship managers now in sustainability to talk to their clients around net zero, talk about some of the regulations that are coming in as well from the EU and elsewhere. I think some of the challenges are, I think it's the fact that the pace of change is increasing. I think we all know the temperatures are increasing. But actually how we integrate into the business model is still evolving. Yeah. I think we saw the floods a few months ago as well. Climate change is real. Yeah. In the UAE and globally as well. Yeah. So actually making sure that's relayed back to a business model or a client model, whether they're in supply chain or food or manufacturing or aviation. Yeah. That's what we need to continue to do. Right. I think it's a cost driver. It's a profit driver. Yeah. So increasingly, companies' valuations. It's no coincidence that Elon is now the richest person in the world. His company's been very laser focused on sustainability. We're seeing global investors around the world really invest in companies that prioritize sustainability. Yeah. So it was definitely a profit driver. So making sure that heads of treasury, heads of finance, boards as well understand that. Yeah. I think that's the critical area we need to focus on. Right.
I do understand the focus on sustainability for long-term profit success, but a lot of times companies are focused on a business case for sustainability because traditionally you learned to do business as make maximum profit. So this kind of is counterintuitive and it's a change in the way of thinking. So how do you make a business case for sustainability?
Very simple. I think there's 3 steps. One, I'm going to talk as a banker, sustainable finance. So your lending from the corporate market is a cheaper rate. There's a greenium, on the markets for corporate lending for bonds and large loans. I think, and those are legitimately tied into your target. So that affects your corporate funding. Right. I think the second part is, I think sustainability and cost go hand in hand. So for us at a bank, we use a lot of renewable energy.
Right.
We did an assessment on all of our energy we use as a group as well. And I think the big focus was aviation. We're probably flying places.
Yeah.
Actually, it was IT and technology. Actually, so then we invested in solar. We've invested in energy efficient buildings. Our bills have come down.
Yeah.
You know, it's made a huge amount of business sense as well.
Yeah.
We've continued to invest in that as well, because like the energy costs are a fixed cost.
Yeah.
If we can reduce that year on year, this project wonderfully pays for itself.
Right.
I think the final part is these are the right things to do for a corporation as well.
Right.
I think sustainability strategy in the short, medium, long term, we need to be part of this world. We need to pay this forward as well.
Yeah.
Whether on gender diversity or net zero as well.
Yeah.
Because actually, if we're polluting, the price is really high. From a reputational risk point of view as well, you won't be a business for very long if you're not a good corporate actor.
Right.
So I think for us, getting that price into the model, and we've done that in the bank, is really important as well. And we encourage our clients to do the same.
Yeah, no, I think banks have a lot of influence in that sense. You have, lending power, you're managing customers. So let's deep dive a little bit into Emirates NBD. I know you've given a few examples, but if you can tell us a little bit about the ESG goals for Emirates NBD and how it's evolved over the years, if you can give us a little insight into that.
So I think 3 principal goals. We really want to mainstream sustainable finance. We don't talk about e-banking anymore, unless you're very old, because we all use digital banking. For me, sustainable finance is the same. I want us to look at it in the same way, where everything that our clients do and we do is sustainable and sustainability linked. I think the second area is we have set our net zero goal for 2050 now. We're looking at different industries as well. And that's really important, so our clients know the guardrails as well.
Yeah.
We're not looking to debank our clients. We're looking to support them on a journey as well. I think that's really important as well. I think the third area is being a good corporate citizen. So we look at gender diversity as well. We've set a 25% gender target for our senior females as well. So by 2027. So we're going beyond the gender pay gap to say, actually, we want to see in ourselves more female leaders. We've got a wonderful bedrock of talent. We want to make sure that females are represented in the entire stack. And incidentally, that's what we talk to our clients about as well. So there's a concept called orange bonds. I'm not sure why the colour is used for orange for gender. But actually, we're encouraging our clients as well to make their sustainable choices as well. And so if I have a look at sustainable bonds, we're now the #1 in the region for sustainable bonds. Top 11 or 12 in the world as well. So it's legitimately having a business of that. So those are our 3 principles. So it's sustainable finance, our own targets, and then walking the walk as well.
Right.
So
yeah. So it seems like you have a very clear vision of what sustainability looks like at Emirates NBD. But how do you trickle that down to the organization and to the culture of the company? What are the steps or the initiatives that you all have done for that?
I think education. I think everyone in the bank, and I think everyone in every company has a view on sustainability. And I love listening to the views. So for us, we've done a really fantastic campaign around education, around sustainability talks like this. Talking to yourselves as well has been really important to make sure hearts and minds are one as well. I think the second part is being listening to feedback from customers and clients.
Right.
Because actually, if I come up with a strategy and don't get feedback from you, that's a bit challenging. So, for example, I looked at net zero pathways. I didn't really look at recycling that much. And when people said, "What are we doing about recycling?" And I said, "Oh, we recycle." Like, no, but I believe all of it goes into one bin and then it's set on fire. And I was like, "What? No, that never. What? No, it never happens at all." But actually, until we listened to customers, clients, and employees, we weren't getting through to that as well.
Right.
I think the final part for us has been ESG ratings. So ESG rating agencies are really important because actually you can kind of see where you compare to others.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world says we're good at sustainability. Everyone says that, but actually when you have a look at rating agencies, you can see gaps as well. So we did find a few gaps actually on some of our sustainability targets, some of our peers as well. So actually, it's a really healthy competition. I think in the UAE, we love to compete. We love to compete. Everywhere. But I think we do compare ourselves really quickly to say, what are they doing down the road? What can we do here as well? So I think that's really helped us as well.
That's interesting. So I like the conversation about sustainability not being perfect and there being loopholes. And I think that's a realistic approach to it, because whenever people try to make it sound foolproof and
Yeah.
perfect, there's something wrong. There's
I-
some greenwashing added
That's-
there.
I think you're right, and I think if we ask ourselves a question, 3 years from now, what does perfect look like? It's evolving and it's changing.
Yeah.
And I think the questions we're asking, so if we look at EVs, 10 years ago, we would have thought, let's all buy EVs, that would be perfect. Now we're saying, actually, where does that energy come from?
Yes, exactly.
What's going to happen to that car afterwards?
Yeah.
Who are the people who helped build that car? What's the embodied carbon as
Yeah.
well? So actually, I think in general, everyone's knowledge is increasing. And I think the questions we're being asked are the right ones.
Yeah.
But I think the 3 years hence, our standards will increase yet more as well.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really, for me, it's really, I've been in the industry in sustainability for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm learning new things all the time. I'm
Yeah.
learning about different impacts and different considerations. I think that's the final one. It's a very open mindset.
Mm.
I think we're generally not in competition with anyone. We're just in collaboration.
Right.
And I think I find that across the sustainability market where we're willing to learn from one another as well.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think for sustainability and for it to be a just transition, there has to be collaboration. SDG 17 is so important. And then again, it has to be this open mindset that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
Our knowledge is evolving. The field is evolving. Regulations are coming every day.
Yeah.
And you just have to be agile enough to, sort of improvise and adjust with the times. And I think as a bank, Vijay, you would have seen a really big shift in mindset, especially when you think of traditionally you want to finance projects that give you the maximum return, sustainable finance, while intellectually it makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, from a money perspective, I guess the conversion time from a profit standpoint takes longer. So how do you balance profit with this shift to sustainable finance, and how do stakeholders buy into it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think we've got to right size sustainable finance, and I think if we wrote to every customer and said buy an EV, they'd probably say no. So it's about precisely calibrating the amount of financing that we offer. For us, though, it's pretty much unlimited. If the client wants it, we will support it. So it's expanding that product suite. I think sustainable finance for me is profitable. So if I give an example as well, the bonds or loans, if they come to us rather another bank, that is profitable for us as well. I think the final point is, for me, sustainable finance is becoming mainstream. It really is becoming mainstream from a corporate and a commercial point of view as well. Our retail banking customers are asking us genuine questions saying, if you are asking me not to print my receipts, what are you guys doing? And look, we all go to hotels and we all see those signs of saying, for the environment, do reuse your towels or do your bed sheets. There are a large proportion of people think, you're kind of saving money here as well. So I think we do need to give better feedback as well. And our customers are asking. So for me, it's not just a profit center, it retains our customers.
Right.
We're seeing customers making more and more sustainable choices. And they're asking us, what plastic are you using in your cards? Now, that's recycled plastic. Okay, what about checkbooks? Okay, what does my packaging need to be this big?
Yeah.
And for me, that tells me that all of our customers are interested in sustainable choices as well.
Right.
And I think there's been some wonderful studies in Europe and North America where the same price products have been placed, but one's sustainable, what's non-sustainable. I think 95% of customers went for a sustainable one.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. And I think that's the pathway we're on as well. And I think we did a study on different generations of sustainability. Actually, all generations had a passion for sustainability.
Yeah.
It wasn't limited to one generation as well.
Yeah.
We've done surveys with retail and commercial customers. These are some of the highest feedbacks we've ever received. Say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Oh, actually, I've seen this. You can slightly change that as well. So I think for us, it generally is a profit center. And I think also thinking long-term value of the bank as well.
Yeah.
We're seeing the largest business in the world being identified with sustainable factors. That is the paradigm shift we're having. And I think that's what we're trying to do as a mindset as well.
Right. No, I think it is definitely a paradigm shift. And I feel like the sustainability space is a little bit about behavior change. And you can see the adoption only increasing. So given that a lot of this landscape depends on policy, how do you think government policy can support this transition that we keep talking about?
I think if I have a look at, say, transition to net zero, I think we've got some wonderful policies already in place. I think the net zero roadmap, the NDC commitments, we've seen have been fantastic. Those will be rolled out and expanded year on year to cover more of the economy as well.
Right.
I think the second part is net zero goals, emissions pathways as well, tied to the UE net zero pathway. I think that will come out as well next year as well. But that would be good to see as well, because if you have an overarching goal, 2050, we all think, oh, maybe we won't be here. That's what people said to me. But, you do think, okay, that's quite a long way away. Actually, what's the 2030, 2035, 2040 goals? Now, again, the UE net zero goals have been made for the energy sector. But actually, if we spread it to other sectors, what does it mean as well?
Yeah.
I think on the final part, it's climate change is here. It is real as well. I think the knowledge is there, the information is there. It's now about mainstreaming it. So what can I produce papers on climate change? About rainfall increasing as well.
Yeah.
I love reading these papers. I'd love more people to read the papers as well, because actually you see that rainfall will increase, humidity will increase, more erratic weather patterns as well. Salinity will increase as well. And those will all have a real-term impact on us as well. So I think for us, as the policymakers as well as ourselves, it's about education.
Right.
It's about saying we are in this cycle of change. It's not just a squiggly graph, but you think it's 20 years from now. We are in that space right now.
And I mean, given the last 2 years, so much happened in the UAE. It's the second year of sustainability in the UAE. COP28 just happened. The landscape has really shifted. But what do you think the future looks like? How do you see it evolving?
I think for me, as the UAE economy continues to diversify and internationalize, we're being tied into the worldwide sustainability vision. I think we are all aware that the Paris goals are fantastic, but the world is still warming. So I believe we're going to see a ratcheting up of net zero commitments, of net zero goals as well. I think on the second side, I think there's going to be even more consumer awareness as well. So some of our customers are saying, why have you sent me a card? I don't use a card.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, well, it's part of the problem. But no, actually, I can just use the app. And actually, that's what I use. I use Apple Pay, Android Pay as well. So I think more and more sustainable consumers are really going to drive demand.
Right.
I think the third element as well is going to be regulations and global standards as well.
Yeah.
So I think, as to my earlier point as well, we are off, we're about 1.3 degrees Celsius warming. I think we'll be asking ourselves a question about 2027, 2030 to say, what do we need to do differently here as well? Because if we're now exceeding the Paris-aligned goal, there will need to be some different policy levers at the economic level as well. And that's not just for UAE, that's globally as well.
Yeah, it's globally. And you can see the impact of climate change, right? There's so many climate catastrophes happening. There are floods, there's glaciers melting, there's a lot of havoc. So there will be a lot of change. But now I want to focus a little bit about, in a lot of our sustainability talks, everyone talked about transparency and sustainability and reporting being a pain point. What would be your recommendations? How does Emirates NBD do its reporting? How do you think you can have transparency in data? And how can you kind of use technology to make sure you can get this data easily?
Yeah, no, I think reporting is really important. I think we've seen a 60% increase of reporting regulations around the world in the last 24, 36 months, which is amazing for consultants.
Yeah.
And as ex-consultants, it keeps consultants really busy.
Yeah.
But actually, on the other side, it's important because now we're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
So gender pay gap is gender pay gap. We're speaking about it in the same way. Net zero goals for 2050 are spoken about in the same way. So we're seeing that consolidation, which is amazing. For us as a bank, we have reported on TCFD. We are the first bank to have an assured TCFD report. So we're really, really pleased with that.
Okay.
We've now done a gap assessment against ISSB, S1 and S2.
Okay.
And so we're now looking forward to the future reporting against ISSB. We're also an early adopter of TNFD, so Task Force for Nature Financial Disclosures. I think we're pretty sure we're the only bank in the region who is an early adopter. We're one of the few companies. And the reason is climate change, environment works hand in hand as well. So we really see that being completely integrated. I think on the technical ESG reporting things, GRI, SASB, We report against those fund matrices.
Yeah.
We do materiality assessments. I'm really wary of them. And the reason being is you kind of, with the materiality assessment, you ask other people to choose your priorities. Actually, those should be already set. So we should have the same priorities around gender, around diversity, around inclusion. We should be then reporting saying, this is where we are.
Yeah.
So I do see a slight gap there. Which again, being on the other side away from consulting, you're really happy to kind of do the work.
Yeah.
On the other side, like, do I need to do this work actually? On the data side, you're right. It's quite challenging to gather that data. I think if you ask a client, whether retail or commercial, what's your emissions, it's quite tough.
Yeah.
We use the PCAF, Partnership Accounting Financials database.
Okay.
We use also S&P True Cost for proxy data, but we're looking at proxy data to improve. We also reward customers as well and say, if you provided this data on the commercial side, then this will provide ESG advisory services for you as well, because we're always looking for that data to improve.
Right.
The benefit for the client as well is when they're looking for sustainable finance, we've got that data already for them as well. So we can help them set targets and link that to their financing.
Right.
But you're right, data is a challenge. It continues to be a challenge. We in the bank have integrated Microsoft Sustainability Manager, which is really, really good. It is quite heavy work. And I think for us, we are looking at sustainability in the same lens as finance. So it is part of our annual reporting cycle.
Yeah.
We are getting assurance on our annual ESG report as well. It is a core part of our integrated report as well. So I think for me, if we were just talking about ESG in the ESG reporting section, I mean, that's great. Of course, I'm going to talk about it. But now it's spoken about in every part of our reporting cycle, which is a fantastic achievement.
Right. And from your side, like, there's a lot of innovation. Technology has really moved forward. So what are these new innovative practices or technologies that are shaping the future of sustainability? It could be either in reporting or it could be carbon capture.
I think on the technology side, on carbon capture, it's really exciting. So I think we're seeing more and more technologies come on stream to offset carbon, which is fantastic. We're seeing new carbon capture technologies just evolving fantastically.
Right.
I think taking a wider eye view, renewable energy, the price of solar is crashing. It's wonderful to see. We probably need to change to make sure there's a brilliant return on investment as well there. I think some of the exciting evolutions we've seen is battery technology. Really, some of the feedback as well is we all have range anxiety. We all have concerns about range. The battery technology is evolving. I think I'm really excited by that because in the UAE and around the world, we're blessed with solar during the day. Then there's a storage problem at night. And I think we've seen in some regions where that calibration hasn't been done precisely. Actually, there's a reaction against it saying, why have we got a power cut and we've gone to solar? And renewable solar has been blamed, that technology has been blamed.
Yeah.
I think coming back to kind of reporting, I think anything, if there's a tool out there, we would buy it. I think everyone would buy it. That would automatically pull this data and plug it in and give us assurance. I think that's a really big market.
Yeah.
I've seen a few false dawns in the space. I remain reticent. We're still doing it really manually. We still have a number of carbon accountants in the team as well that do this. I think on the wider front as well, AI, conversational AI is really exciting. So I was with investors a few weeks ago. They'd used conversational AI to analyze our entire 200-page report. It was only released a few days before. We also had a new framework standard that again had been summarized. So I think conversational AI will have a huge impact for us as well. I think on the other side as well, I look at AI being very energy intensive.
Yes, exactly. And that's what not many people talk about.
Yeah, and I think, we've seen Microsoft say 5 to 10% more energy will be used this year than their projections. Actually, incidentally, Microsoft's the biggest buyer of renewable energy and carbon credits in the world as well. So they're always quite far ahead. We've seen the same as well. We've seen spikes. I think 70% of our emissions come from IT technology. And we use renewable energy. We build our renewable energy as well. But I think that element has to be looked at as well.
Yeah.
I think, and I went to some wonderful presentations at New York Climate Week, using AI for server management as well, using the energy efficiency is becoming more and more part of the story of how AI can be used as well.
Yeah.
So away from reporting, actually in energy, also in the distribution of the grid as well, the grid efficiency is increasing. Again, at New York Climate Week, we saw smart kind of logistics where, okay, actually I'll put this vehicle here. Actually, that's going to be more energy efficient. So we're going to see AI use really evolve. I think right now I'm myself only thinking of conversational AI, but it has been an eye-opener in the last 6 months of how it's being used.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And actually, now that you talk about New York Climate Week, if you can tell us a little bit about the sessions and share with the audience some of your learnings from New York Climate Week.
Yeah, perfect. So New York Climate Week occurs in September each year alongside the United Nations General Assembly. A lot of focus on transition finance, so not leaving anyone behind. I think it's fair to say with the global landscape as well, there is feedback around not leaving people behind as well. That's really fed in. I think the second big feedback as well has been tariffs, taxes. So if you're in North America or Europe, you're viewing EVs coming to your country as a bit of a threat and a strategic threat as well. So there are more thoughts around tariffs. Actually, I don't think it's the most beneficial thing to have huge tariffs, but I can definitely identify with the job threats and job losses there as well. I think the final part as well is that North Star to sustainability. So for net zero, we have a definite goal, 2050 or 2060 or 2070, depending on your country. For gender, for diversity, what is a North Star? For nature, what is a North Star as well? So I think there's a lot of focus in the next year of identifying actually what is the goal, and then we can move into that as well. At kind of New York Climate Week is a lot of wonderful sessions. So I attended a World Economic Forum session, United Nations Global Compact as well. I think there's a focus on consolidated reporting. And I think reporting and transparency has gone us some way, but now it's ambition setting. And finally integrating this into all the thinking at the board level as well.
Right.
So I think the World Economic Forum produces a report each year of the top kind of things and top of CEOs and boards' mind. Sustainability is always there.
Yeah.
But actually, when we have a look at allocation of resources, it needs to increase.
Right.
And I think that's been a big focus.
Okay.
I think the final part is with New York Climate Week, it gets bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah,
So I think
this year much bigger.
This year is much bigger. I think it was 900 events. I think last year was about 500 events.
Wow.
So it's definitely becoming bigger as well.
Yeah.
And the final part is public-private partnerships as well. So for us as a bank, we're asked, often we're asked to discount every product for sustainable finance. As you discussed as well, that's not profitable. It will be quite challenging if we do that as well.
Yeah.
But it's how can we work together with the public sector as well,
Right.
to provide a mechanism by which we can finance as well. And for us, often there's a pathway.
Right.
It's often a pathway to say you've got 6 or 7 projects on one project. Also risk sharing as well. So that was really discussed.
Right. Oh, it sounds like a great event. 900 events in
900
year.
events.
That's crazy. Like from 500 to 900 is a huge jump.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. For everyone attending, we're going to continue the conversation, but if you have any questions, feel free to put it on chat. The idea of the session is to also give you the opportunity to ask Vijay your questions, so please continue to do that. As we go along the conversation, I'll make sure to pick up your questions as well. So coming back to you, Vijay, the landscape of corporate sustainability is really evolving. What are the trends and challenges that you see, not just for the financial industry, but more broadly?
I think it wouldn't be a session if we didn't talk about greenwashing.
Yeah, I think that's that's fair.
I think greenwashing is a big challenge. I think many corporates are now fully understanding the promises they've made. But I think we need to kind of level set where there's a curve of knowledge around some of these targets as well and what they actually mean for our business.
Yeah.
Equally, green hushing. And we've done in the bank as well some amazing sustainability initiatives. I've not always been the best communicator of that. So actually that's the opposite side as well, because actually quite frightened to say, oh, if I say this, will someone else say this? So that is a level of concern as well.
Yeah.
I think some of the other challenges are just making sure it's part of the business model. I think to your point earlier as well, make sure everyone's bought into this as well.
Right.
And what sustainability means for your organization. So if you're a property company and your whole company, you own hotels, actually having energy efficient hotels will save you money.
Yeah.
If you're in a supply chain, actually integrating climate change into your supply chain, and as we saw with, as you said, wildfires, floods, hurricanes all increasing, integrating climate change into your thinking there will make sure your supply chains are resilient.
Yeah.
So it's just, for me, the biggest challenge, but also opportunity, is integrated thinking about sustainability as well. I think sustainability is no longer a back office function. It is a front office function. It is a profit center. It's an opportunity.
No, I really like that. And I really like the conversation about green hushing, because you're right, we all talk about greenwashing and we are so focused about people over marketing. But on the converse, there's also people not talking enough about what they're doing. And the more we work with clients, we see a lot of green hushing happening as well, which is also unproductive.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So here in our series, we have a lot of companies and a lot of people joining who are starting their sustainability journey, or companies that are just starting their journey. What advice or insights would you offer to these people to navigate this path? Because it can seem quite daunting.
It can seem quite daunting, and I'm still daunted. I'm still really daunted. I think ask for support. I think the network is amazing.
Yeah.
I think also when you're setting up your sustainability strategy in an organization, talk to the organization. I think, having been a consultant, some of the biggest mistakes are the strategies made in a room and you don't talk to your end customers, who are employees or customers as well.
Yeah.
And I think the final thing is be ambitious. Really, I think, Namrata, you made a wonderful point about many organizations have got golden nuggets of, I was already doing this. And I think, again, look, I think Emirates NBD has really developed a wonderful sustainability vision strategy. I've only been a very small cog in that. So my job is empowering everyone in the business and in the bank to hit sustainability and to say, we can achieve this as well. And I've been incredibly fortunate because actually the bank has been incredibly supportive. So it's finding those cheerleaders, finding those people who can support you as well.
So finding that internal buy-in or senior buy-in so that you can start driving.
Correct. And I think talk about it as much as possible as well. And I think everyone on a personal level thinks about sustainability. We think about sustainability in our buying choices. We go to Carrefour or supermarket, we buy sustainably. We think about this as well.
Yeah.
So actually, people are generally thinking about it. So bring it home to that individual person and you'll win them over as well.
Right. Another really key aspect about sustainability is SMEs.
Yep.
SMEs is 90% of the UAE workforce. We have a question about that on chat as well from Rebi. The financial constraints that SMEs face, what affordable strategies or provisions are available to them to adopt sustainable practices?
Yeah, so I think with SMEs, so in the bank, we launched an SME finance campaign, I think 6 months ago as well, to support SMEs, because you're completely right. SMEs are a bedrock of the economy. I think as well, if we have a look at it, as a corporate, we're also a big buyer. So we also have integrated sustainability into our buying choices as well.
Right.
One of the challenges there is wonderful large companies have wonderful sustainability strategies, fill in the questionnaires. SMEs, the burden is a bit harder as well. So for us, actually, we've got set allocations. We want to see more SMEs taking part. We want to diversify who we're buying from.
Yeah.
And also there's UAE regulations about buying from SMEs in the UAE. We often educate our clients on this as well.
Right.
I think at the highest level as well, it's having a sustainability strategy if you're an SME. Talking around net zero, talking about this, because this is increasingly part of government tenders and private sector tenders. That actually places you in a wonderful place compared to some of the larger companies.
Yeah.
And I think as those questionnaires come in, answer them, I think it's really, really effective. So for me, one is the contracting side.
Yeah.
This has been more and more built in.
Right.
You can have a look at EcoVadis and other tool sets as well that really support you in that journey. And again, in my previous life as a consultant, help the clients by 300-400% who are SMEs in the region. I think on the financing side, so EBD and other banks as well, I'll say other banks, do offer SME financing as well, because it's a bedrock of the economy as well.
Yeah. No, as SMEs, that's some music to our ears. I think it's really important to be supported by larger, especially financial institutions, right? So I think from a perspective of culture, we talked a bit about education, but we very often find companies, like what could be those education initiatives that companies can put in place to make sure that culture really does come out? Because what we find is that a lot of people don't have sustainability as a KPI.
Okay.
And thus, because it's not a KPI, it's not priority.
Yeah.
And
I think first of all, put sustainability as KPI. So we have, well, I give an example. We have KPIs for our executive committee and our senior leadership team for sustainability. We've also launched an education series, and this has really ranged from what is net zero, what is greenwashing, are ice ages real? You know, really interesting. You know, we've launched that as well, and that's been incredibly well attended as well. Or what's going to happen in 100,000 years? What's the temperature going to be like? What does the world look like in 100 years? To break down those barriers and increase knowledge as well. That's been really effective. I think for me, it's education at the top, but also education for everyone who's working as well. So it has to be at all levels.
Yeah.
I think educating the top layer of Exco and board is the minimum. I think setting KPIs, I think we should set KPIs. I think generally we should set KPIs. I think if we believe enough in a vision, we should set KPIs. And I think the final part is, and I think something, you know, one of the learnings I've got is to educate the market. For me, as, you know, Group Chief Sustainability Officer, one role is educating the bank, the other role is the market. Because actually, if the market believes in sustainability, my job is completely done.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm leaving my job, but I think it's done in the fact that all of our customers and clients are on board as well. I think the final side, make it interesting. I've attended some sustainability presentations, which are so technical. They run on for hours on end.
No, I totally agree with that. In fact, we at Shiftyco were doing some research to try and understand why people don't, adopt sustainability easily. And they said it's too daunting. There's too much jargon involved, and the minute it gets too technical, it's unrelatable. And I think that leads me to a really interesting question that Ria has asked about how do you make sure that sustainability initiatives resonate with employees and customers? Because that's a very important piece of this culture building and this, connection with sustainability.
So I think for us, we've run our material assessment every year and asked our largest customers, but also a diverse range of customers, what's important to you?
Yeah.
It's been really interesting. Because I think for, say, retail customers, it's what are you doing in branches? How do you choose different products? What's the access to finance as well? What's the affordability here as well of these products? When we were in head office, we're in head office at the moment, you ask yourself slightly different questions. Our corporate customers have asked, again, different questions, say, how can we access finance? What can we do here on a global level? What targets are you going to set for us? Are you going to restrict finance in any way? For me, it's making completely relevant. So again, we've done a lot of listening sessions within the group and outside the group as well. Say, what does good look like? What are your concerns? We have done it in a Chatham House Rules fashion as well. To say,
and what were some of these outcomes? I'm intrigued.
I think some of the outcomes are, interestingly, around gender pay gap. So we have for our senior leaders, women are paid more than men.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That is not a pitch, but I always pitch for people to join us in the group, women and men. But actually, it's some of those preconceptions people have got about the region as well, that we've kind of broken down. I think on the other side as well, it's been around sustainability choices. Is if we produce a recycled checkbook, is that enough? Yes, it's a really important part. And actually, it's really tactile and we can feel it. But actually, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. So for us, we're buying renewable energy. Every time you go to a branch or on your app, those data centers were running on more and more renewable energy year on year on year as well. So actually, it showed us we probably need to do a better job in explaining that to customers around the world as well.
Yeah.
And I think the final part for us is really thinking about what kind of products are we launching, and when are we launching these as well. So we do offer loans on sustainability, particularly in the corporate sector. We now need to think about other sectors as well.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. We also have a question from Noora. She asks, how can banks help with the new carbon pricing regulations coming up? And how can we turn it into an opportunity?
It's a really good question. So I think it came out 10 days ago. It's really interesting because actually with the carbon pricing regulation, we have a carbon trading desk, so we are looking at the carbon price as well. I think for us, it's working with banks and the regulators to set a fair price for carbon. I think on the other side as well, it's talking to clients of ours about carbon as well, about buying offsets as well.
Yeah.
Thirdly, it's about measuring emissions, being really accurate with that as well.
Yeah.
I think, and I do love reading sustainability reports. It's really sad, but I
No, it's
really
great.
love reading them. But actually, people change the boundaries sometimes do this, but it's about measuring the right way and reporting. So for us, we want to create an ecosystem because we want people to buy offsets.
Yeah.
We are going to be buying more offsets. We really welcome the regulation as well. Generally, I believe that this will provide a brilliant platform for not just for banks, but for large companies and also smaller companies. Because if you think about it, through regulation, there is a fine element there as well. There's a reputational risk element. Customers in the UAE, clients in the UAE will need support on measurement of their emissions.
Right.
They will need to start thinking about, because regulation all talked about net zero goals as well. So we'll need support on those net zero goals. So for us, we really welcome it. We're really excited as well for the next steps as well. I know it's coming in next year, and we're looking forward to further detail as well there.
Right. We also have a question from Crescentia. She's asking, how does sustainability ratings like EcoVadis or audits like SMETA influence interest rates for sustainable finance?
I think so. EcoVadis in particular, we look at some of those. We have a book of KPIs for sustainability, which shows, let's say for science-based targets, it's you have the best kind of net zero goal. We then will offer a slightly different rate on that as well. Particularly on the corporate lending, we do that as well. EcoVadis on the supply chain, it's percentage of scores there for EcoVadis. We do have a look at that as well. So it is part of our book of KPIs as well.
Right.
Particularly for EcoVadis, because we found that's become an industry standard as well. What I would say though is, and that's where my sustainability team works with the clients to set those goals as well and set that ambition.
Right.
Because again, we just launched our sustainability linked loan bond framework. We link the loans we give out to actually the financing we get as a bank. So many people don't appreciate, we as a bank also go to the markets for financing.
Right.
I think over 50% of our financing is now sustainability linked. And those investors really want to know, what are you lending to? So as well as the interest rate, actually probably what's more material is, particularly for our large corporate lenders or borrowers, we offer ESG advisory as well.
Right.
Whether on reporting, ratings, or ESG strategy as well. We don't go the full hog. That is almost doing all the reporting, because actually we want that consulting market to be there as well. We want a really healthy SME market as well.
No, that's really interesting. I didn't know you all do ESG advisory as well. That's interesting. We have COP29 coming up. It's almost here. So what do you think we should expect from COP29? Let's start with that, and then I'll do
I think COP29, very exciting. We're only 1 year away as well from Brazil. So the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
I think this is the climate finance COP. So we're going to see some more numbers come out. I think very similar to COPs as well, we're going to see a lot of excitement. I think we're in an interesting election cycle as well. And I think there was a stat earlier in the year that half the population of the world has gone for elections in the last 12 to 18 months as well. So actually, the world is voting on sustainability. I think with climate finance, I think more work needs to be done with support for those countries most at risk. There's a lot of focus in the pre-chats that I've been involved with around risk sharing as well. Say, if you're a country, say in Southeast Asia or Pacific, how can you get that financing at the lowest cost as well? And that's blended finance. That's the World Bank, EBRD coming in and supporting you on that net zero journey and that trajectory as well. Depth and nature swaps are really important as well. And we've seen that because it's obviously kind of Cali COP as well. We've seen that conflation of nature and climate. I think the final element as well is last year was a global stock take of net zero goals. That only came out 2 weeks before COP. It kind of flew under the radar. Now it's going to be looked at. And I think the feedback has been amazing progress on net zero, but we need to multiply this probably by 3 or 4 times as well to hit the net zero goal. So that needs to increase as well.
I think there's a lot of momentum to COP30 in Brazil. A lot of people are talking about it already, but COP29 is exciting as well. For the financial sector, you said that what do you think are the challenges that will be addressed in this COP?
I think for me, it's probably two elements. One, looking at kind of taxonomies. There's a lot of taxonomies around the world. But actually, what our definition of net zero, what's our pathways, what do those mean for our clients? That we've spoken about a lot more. I think the second part as well is that it's part of a corporate agenda. So I've been to quite a few COPs. There weren't that many corporates 10 years ago. Now it feels definitely in Dubai, and someone came to our space, and there was another CSO and his daughter. And she said, why have I queued for an hour to see men and women in suits sign pieces of paper? What have I done wrong? I don't quite understand. But actually, I was impressed because it was at our stand. Actually, it's really good in a sense because corporates are taking us more seriously. Then if I have a look at the attendees at the COP as well, a lot of corporations from Fortune 500, from the UAE's largest companies are taking part and are going to continue to take part as well.
No, that is interesting, and I'm sure you're going to COP this year as well.
Yes.
Emirates NBD will be there as well.
So Emirates NBD will be supporting the sustainability team. We're still in discussions with the COP committee.
Nice. Thank you so much for all your incredible input. I really enjoyed the conversation. There was just so many different elements to it. What advice do you have for people in sustainability at a personal and a professional level? Closing remarks from everything we've discussed today.
I think continue to share information. Look, generally, I find it's kind of one of the things. I love sustainability. I really love sustainability, and I think those of us in the industry, it's an amazing privilege. It's really exciting. It can be hard, so I think continue to support one another. EBD will support you as well. I'll support you as well. Our team support you as well. But I think set that ambition really high. I think go for it because actually ambitions we set a few years ago are increasing all the time as well.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I really love your journey in sustainability from a climate scientist to a group CSO of a bank. That's quite a journey. So
definitely,
yeah.
In fact, it's a great pleasure to be here. Yeah. Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you so much, Vijay. I really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise, your thought process with everyone attending, and for everyone who watched the recorded video.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.